Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, the show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd. Divisional games are done, and I think the moral of this past weekend was if you don't turn the ball over, you're going to win some games. Because all the teams that didn't turn the ball over this weekend, they won their matchups. We had some really good games. All of these games were relatively close anyways, and we'll talk about all of them. It's just crazy, though. We have 3 games left on the year now. NFL season is almost done. It's sad. I'm excited to get into more off-season stuff with the drafts and free agency and whatever. Like, the NFL really never stops, but yeah, the 24 season is almost done. This episode just going to be a divisional recap episode. I tried to think of other things to do. Couldn't really think of things. Plus, it's been a busy week. I have a lot going on behind the scenes. Not going to fill you in until I know my plans are official, but I will. I will when I know you'll know. Whatever, but it's been a busy week. Just going to recap these just going to recap these games. So let's get into it here. We will start off with the first Saturday night game. Texans 14, Chiefs 23. So the story that came out of this one is the refs. Oh, the refs are on Kansas City's side. Oh, the refs are awful. And yeah, the refs are bad. The refs are bad in every single game. I mean, I watched that Ravens-Bills game on Sunday night, and Deion Dawkins got called for a hold when he literally just knocked the defender's arms. I think it was Ojabo, knocked his arms down. He lost his balance, he tripped, and then he just kind of like mauled him. That got called for a hold. That's not a hold. There was the Trey White pass interference call where Keon Coleman, it was more of a shove on Coleman than anything. That got called. The refs make bad calls in every game, and I'm not going to sit here and let people say the refs are what won the Chiefs this game. I'm not going to say that 2 penalty calls from the first and third quarters are what swayed this game and how the Texans couldn't overcome it. I mean, part of the reason that the Texans lost this game, 7 sacks allowed. 3 of those just from George Karlaftis going against tight ends. Maybe don't put Karlaftis on a tight end. I don't know. And yeah, missed kicks, blocked kicks, missed PATs. Like, there are many reasons to blame the Texans and why the Texans didn't win this other than 2 bad penalties on the Chiefs. And yeah, they were terrible calls. The refs are awful. The refs have always been awful. But to sit there and point and be like, oh no, the Chiefs are cheaters, it's lame. You're all losers. So that's the refs. I don't want to spend any more time on the refs because it's just annoying. It's really annoying to have it be a talking point about almost every Chiefs game of, oh, the Chiefs have the refs in the back pocket. So I'm just going to move on, and we will actually talk about this game and what the Chiefs did. It was vintage Travis Kelce in this one. 7 catches, 117 yards, 1 touchdown. Looked like me playing flag football out there where, I just managed to run around, get open, and then if I can make one dude miss somehow, I'm pretty much gone, and that's what Kelce was doing when he did get going. Looked like he was kind of running in concrete there. He is getting older, but goddamn, his chemistry with Pat Mahomes, like, they're both so incredible together, and just he's so tough to defend because he knows exactly what Pat is thinking, and when he does scramble or if he does run his route, realize it's covered, he knows when to break it off properly. Their chemistry is absolutely great, and the thing that will get talked about, especially on the Chiefs offense a lot, and we're going to see highlights of this for years in the playoffs, is that Pat Mahomes falling down, throwing the ball, touchdown pass that he made. I'm going to get really sick of that clip probably because honestly, it got bested in the what game was that? The Sunday night game. It got bested with a Goff and Laporta toss that was essentially the same thing. That was a much nicer play, but that Mahomes play again, we're going to see that play a lot. We're definitely going to see that play a lot. Way to go, Lucy, getting up on your chair. But the Chiefs' offense in general, it was relatively shut down. I mean, the Texans did what they want. They took away kind of like the outside throws to receivers, and Pat Mahomes was just left to pick them off in the middle. But luckily for him, he has Travis Kelce, and they were fine. Offense wasn't great looking. Luckily for them, the defense is awesome. Demon Spags in the playoffs is very tough to play against. I think I have one other note on offense, though. Kareem Hunt is the better running back than Isaiah Pacheco at this point. I think that there is, again, a lot of good in both guys' games, and it's crazy that I'm sitting here in the year 2025 and being like, yeah, Kareem Hunt is the best starting running back that the Chiefs have right now, but Kareem Hunt has been the better player this year, and I don't know if Pacheco is still kind of coming back from his injury, and he's not a full 100%, but right now, I think Kareem Hunt needs to be their starting running back going forward. I like Pacheco. I like what he does, but I think Hunt needs to be involved in their offensive game plan more than Pacheco at this moment anyways, and that might change. But right now, Kareem Hunt should be getting the bulk of their touches out of the backfield. And other than that, for the defense, I really don't got a ton else to say. I think, actually, one more thing on Travis Kelce. I think that was his longest touchdown catch of his, it can't have been his career, but it might have been his playoff career. His playoff stats are also nuts. If you go back and look at him, I think, which one was it? He passed Jerry Rice in something, which, I mean, passing any Jerry Rice stat is incredible, but I think that he's second in receiving yards for playoffs, and I think he might have passed him in touchdowns. Which is absolutely crazy because, again, breaking any Jerry Rice record is unbelievable. It's very, very hard to do, but shout out to Travis Kelce. I mean, just incredible player, incredible career. We'll talk about this Chiefs defense here, though. They were the reason that they won this game. I mean, 72.3% of the pressures they got on CJ Stroud ended up in a sack. They did sack him 7 times on the day. 3 of those, as I mentioned, from George Karlaftis going against Dalton Schultz trying to block him. Dalton Schultz isn't a good blocker, but that Texans O-line does suck, and that is a issue that I'll talk about when I talk about the Texans here. But yeah, Karlaftis is awesome. Chris Jones is just a game wrecker. It seems like every time you need someone on that defense to make a play, it's rather coming from Chris Jones or it's coming from this other guy, Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie went out with an injury relatively early in this game, and all of a sudden the Texans' offense came alive a little bit. As soon as McDuffie goes back out there, he's immediately clamps. He's so good. He is so much fun to watch, and he's not like a traditional corner either. He's a little undersized, but he'll lock up the guy or the opposing team's number 1 wide receiver. He'll blitz off the edge. He'll play in the slot. Trent McDuffie is truly a do-it-all corner. He's one of the better. I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves. I think across media in the league, obviously, I think he was named like an All-Pro this year, which again, he deserves, and I think he's been named an All-Pro before. But either way, I think like in terms of like the average viewer, if you were to ask an average NFL fan of like, oh, who are some of the top corners in the league, I don't think that Trent McDuffie probably gets brought up. And he definitely should. He is an absolute stud, but no. Steve Spagnuolo had that defense playing very, very good football, as he usually does. And again, this offense, they took, it was 24 days off between starts, so a little rust for them to knock off, but they're in the AFC Championship game now. Big test next weekend against the Bills, obviously, but we'll talk about that in Friday's show. Yeah, again, Texans, or Chiefs are awesome. Chiefs continue to do their thing. Texans on the other side, their defense literally did everything that they possibly could. Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter really had whoever their wide receivers were locked up, other than a few Xavier Worthy screens. I think Worthy was their only wide receiver to catch a pass, and he had 5 catches for 43 yards. They did their job, though. Like, that was the game plan, is we're going to eliminate all the other areas on the field except for the middle and just hope that we can get to the passer, or we can lock up Travis Kelce just a little bit, and they couldn't. That was their undoing, but the defense did play really well. The defense played great, and we have to talk about Will Anderson. Will Anderson is an absolute freak. We knew this when he got drafted last year, but I think his rise into how good he really is, by this time next year, he should be in the conversation for the top 5 pass rushers with guys like Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, TJ Watt, Aiden Hutchinson, Micah Parsons, yada, yada, yada. Will Anderson will be on that level. I think he's nearly there. I think this is kind of what I was doing for Aiden Hutchinson at this point last year, where it was Aiden Hutchinson, he's right there, but I need another season. I mean, he didn't really play a full season, but that half season from Hutch was absolutely incredible. And Will Anderson, I'm expecting him to make that same type jump. Great run defender, but he was making so many great plays too. He had 2 sacks in this one, and I give a lot of credit to Joe Thuney, who was starting at left tackle, obviously the all-pro guard for the Chiefs, starting at left tackle there. And he held his own, and it wasn't even Thuney got beat, he was just a step behind. It was just Will Anderson is just straight up better. Joe Thuney did a really good job in that spot, but they're even at left tackle, there's not probably a lot of edge rushers in this league who could beat Joe Thuney, and apparently Will Anderson might be one of those guys. Definitely a future Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I might make that bet next year. I don't know. We'll have to see the odds whenever those do pop up, but Will Anderson, absolutely awesome. That defense played great. D'Amico had those guys playing really well. Offense on the other side, that offensive line, it's just bad. Laramie Tunsil still Laramie Tunsil. I think he took a little bit of a step back this year, but he's still a really good player. The rest of the offensive line, obviously they dealt with their injuries, but they do have to figure that out. I'm just talking about injuries in general. No Stephon Diggs, no Tank Dell. Nico Collins was banged up this year. It was tough for them to really get any offensive consistency. Joe Mixon was also banged up. And you could feel the offensive consistency getting a little bit better. Stroud and Nico, they do have that connection. It's really great to see. But I don't think, other than probably the first couple games of the year, and even then Tank Dell was still kind of coming back from his injury, their offensive starters didn't really play together. I don't think that we really saw a fully healthy game with CJ, Nico, Tank, Diggs, and Mixon out there, which is really too bad, because we saw, again, it wasn't a great season for the Texans in general. Obviously, they won the division, they won a playoff game, so can't be mad about it, but it was a tough long road to get to that point anyways, and it just sucks. And the offense did the best that they could. This Chiefs defense is really good, and again, I said it in the intro, turnovers are the undoing No, am I wrong about that? Did they turn the ball over, right? I might be misremembering things. I know turnovers happened in all the other games, but I thought the Texans turned it over at least once. No, I'm just wrong and I'm an idiot. Okay, is what it is. I mean, you can technically count turnovers as a 4th down turnover when Kaimi Fairbairn missed some kicks there, but yeah. Either way, yeah, Texans offense just wasn't really great, wasn't really there all season. A lot of that has to do with health, but Talk about the future. What is next for the Texans? And luckily for the Texans, they've got guys like C.J. Stroud, Derek Stingley, Will Anderson, Kamari Lassiter, Jalen Petrie, Kalen Bullock. I could name a few more guys, but I'm not going to. All of those guys are on rookie contracts. Like, their best players right now are on rookie contracts, which is absolutely huge, crucial for them. It means that their front office can reload, readjust for some of these things in the offseason, and the Texans should be better next year. Another year for D'Amico to be the head coach. Again, he had that defense playing really well, and they had a lot of guys injured too, but that defense was consistently playing very, very well. Bobby Slowick, I give him a little bit of grace. Obviously, there was, the rise and fall and rise of Bobby Slowick was absolutely crazy. I mean, people were talking about him getting head coaching jobs last offseason to midseason this year to wanting him fired, and now obviously he's not getting fired, and I think that he's back in Texans fans' good graces at least a little bit, but got to get a better offensive line, got to get another weapon at least. Obviously, they've got Nico Collins under contract, and that is a very good contract that he is under too. But obviously, he's under contract. I think Mixon is a free agent. I don't know if they signed him to a 2-year deal, but he may or may not still be around. Tank Dell's going to be dealing with his injury before the season starts, I would imagine. Diggs is a free agent, so they've got some room to adjust, room to add some new people, but the Texans, like, their building blocks are all there for the next few years anyways. Their Super Bowl window is obviously still open as long as C.J. Stroud is on that rookie deal and before they got to pay all those guys. The Texans are in a very, very good spot. They're in a very good spot in a very weak division. I like their coaching. I like how they're built in general. It's just got to be, again, injuries suck, and it sucks when you're going against a Chiefs team that is literally getting healthy at the right time, while you guys are not. And I'll talk about a team that got killed with injuries very shortly, but I'm still, again, I like the direction that the Texans are heading, and we will see what happens next year, but yeah, Texans got a lot of those building blocks in place, and I think that we can move on to the next game here. Commanders 45, Lions 31. Got to start with the Commanders, obviously, and the Commanders are just one of the best stories in football right now, and I owe them a massive apology. Basically, the entire year, the offseason, the start of the season, I was not giving them any credit of what was happening with that team and how they were coached and blah, blah, blah. I just basically been wrong about them the entire year. I was wrong about Jaden Daniels and how great he could have been. I thought he was going to be fine, but I didn't think he was going to be this good playing in an NFC Championship game. I was wrong about the Dan Quinn and the Cliff Kingsbury hires. I thought Dan Quinn was just a retread head coach, like he's fine. Cliff Kingsbury, I thought he was the issue in Arizona, and it looks like it's been Kyler Murray this entire time. I didn't like the vet free agents they brought in, like Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Cleveland Farrell, Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz. Like, I thought that they were just, like, those were just a bunch of guys. And all of those guys ended up having relative career years. Obviously not for Bobby Wagner, because he's Bobby fucking Wagner and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But Bobby Wagner, I mean, undeservedly so, still made a second All-Pro team this year. That man still got some juice. Not really in the pass coverage game, but he's a damn near elite run defender. Louvu was awesome. Again, all of these old vet guys that they brought in played really fucking well. Their patchwork offensive line that I was like, I don't know. They bring in Nick Allegretti and Tyler Biotish. They both played, like, again, as starters and offensive line starters, which, again, it's hard to find in this league. Again, basically everything I thought about the Commanders this year, I was wrong, and I doubted them. And I doubted them every step of the way. And I apologize. Is it going to change against the Eagles game on Sunday? Probably not. But I've been wrong about them this entire time, so honestly, maybe it's best if I keep rooting against. I'm not rooting against the Commanders, obviously, but maybe it's best if I keep doubting them. But Yeah, the Commanders are one of the best stories in first or in football, going from second overall to now playing for an NFC Championship game, beating the number one seed. I mean, two playoff wins for rookie Jaden Daniels. If you're a Commanders fan, like it doesn't get much better than that. Like what an incredible run. And the scary part is this team can still get better. Like again, get better basically across the board. They are an older roster. They can look to add again more pieces basically everywhere. But the fact that they look this good, the fact that they're in an NFC Championship game in year one of this new regime is absolutely crazy. And maybe it's just because Dan Snyder, he got the boot. All of that bad aura and bad juju was away from the team, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah, we can win fucking playoff games again. Maybe that's just it. Maybe as soon as you get rid of your terrible owner, you just become a juggernaut team. Either way, shout out to the Commanders for just, I mean, their entire year. It's been absolutely nuts, absolutely incredible. And I'll talk about Jaden Daniels just a little bit more in this one. 299 passing yards in this one, 2 passing TDs, added a little bit more than 50 rushing yards on the ground. The man just does it all. And again, it's so impressive to watch him play. He's so fun to play. I mean, there was a play in this game where Brian Branch, who he might have made an all-pro team. Either way, one of the better safety, defensive back, whatever. He just plays everywhere. He blitzed off the edge for Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels saw that, and he's like, I'm going to run away from him. Brian Branch is really fast. Brian Branch is a very good athlete. He could not catch up to Jaden Daniels. He had the jump on Jaden Daniels to get him, and Daniels was just faster. It's very impressive seeing a man like that play football, and I don't think it's a crazy thing for me to say that Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC right now. There's a little bit of leeway, and the only person I'll give a little bit of leeway to is Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford also had a great playoff game. We'll talk about that in a bit. Matt Stafford has also been there, done that, whatever. He's had a terrific, terrific career. But what Jaden Daniels is doing right now in his rookie year, it's scary good. And I thought I was going to be in a spot this year where I'm like, I don't want to put any rookie year players in my quarterback top 10 just because it's so hard to like really gauge. Like one season he had a terrific season, but I got to put Jaden Daniels up there. Like Jaden Daniels might be my 5th best quarterback in the league right now, which is again absolutely crazy thing to say after 1 year, but that's just how good he was. That's how good this team has been. And I'm not really even talking about what happened in this game because 45 points. The Commanders fucking steamrolled them. Their defense, again, it was, again, and it's more, we can talk more about the gameplay when we talk about the Lions because it was more of just the Lions falling apart than the Commanders really succeeding. And again, this is just me doubting the Commanders again, but fuck, the run that they're on, like you want to talk about like Cinderella teams, it's the Commanders right now. So impressive. So it's just awesome to watch. And if we want to talk about another rookie here too, we can talk about rookie corner Mike Sanistril, who people primarily thought he was going to be a nickel slot corner, a little bit on the shorter side. He's, I think, a tad taller than 5'9", but he's not 5'10", and people want to make those distinctions very clear. But he, again, 2 interceptions in this one. He's just a baller. The fact that he can play on the outside and play very well on the outside at that size is very impressive. I'm sure Dan Quinn has some more plans for him kind of as his career goes on. I think adding Marshawn Lattimore, even though Lattimore is, I think he's still a little banged up. He played solid in this one, but I think adding Lattimore, adding that extra DB really helped this defense out in the long run, and I think shout out to Adam Peters for making that move. I mean, shout out to Adam Peters in general for putting this team together, because again, Dorrance Armstrong forced a fumble in this one. Dante Fowler had a career year in, what is this, year 9 for Fowler? I think that sounds right. I think he was a 2016 first-round pick. Like, again, like what this team has been able to do is absolutely incredible. I'm excited to see them play the Eagles next week. That'll be a very, very fun game, that divisional matchup. And again, we'll talk about that game on Friday. I guess last note for the Commanders here before I move on to the Lions. Sam Cosmi is hurt. Their best guard, their best offensive lineman in general. He's hurt. I haven't seen how serious the injury is, but it looks like he's doubtful to play. And that, again, that's a big, big loss, especially going against this Eagles pass rush and their front seven in general. So it'll be a tough task for the Commanders next week. But, I mean, if anything, they've proved me wrong all season. I will be picking the Eagles on Friday, just to clarify. So maybe they're going to prove me wrong again. I don't know. Lions on the other side. The defense finally broke. Like, it was the final straw that broke the camel's back. Amik Robertson leaving the game early in this one. Brian Branch left the game with an injury as well. It was just, again, too many defensive injuries to overcome, but I'm not blaming the defense in this one. Like, yeah, we knew the defense sucked. We knew the defense has sucked for weeks, months, whatever. We knew how injured they were. The offense is truly what lost in this game. And I'll talk about the offense in a bit, but I do want to talk about this defense because they played their fucking hearts out. Like, it sucks. It really does suck to see the Lions. And, God, I see some Lions fans that are blaming Aaron Glenn and blaming Ben Johnson, and it's just like, you guys are fucking losers. Like, you don't know how to act. You've been at the gutter, at the bottom for years and years and years. You finally get a little bit of good things coming your way, and it's just doom and gloom and blame everyone. And that's just fan bases in general. And obviously not all Lions fans are like that. I'm not going to paint like a broad picture of what they all are, but like, fandom is crazy. And I think those two words just go hand in hand. Fans, crazy. It is what it is. But yeah, Lions defense tried their best though. But like losing Amik Robertson, then losing Brian Branch, absolutely nuts. And from like their week 1 depth chart, they have 9 healthy guys from that defense. And that's just not, they have 9 healthy starters. No. From their first string guys and second string guys, they have 9 healthy players. That is 22 defensive players that are starters or backups, and 9 of them are healthy. There was guys playing in this game who I have never heard of, and it became crucial on a 4th and 2 call where if the Lions stop them, the Lions might have a chance to go down the field, get back in the game a little bit more. I'm trying to remember the score, but I don't remember. But they had 2 guys named Morris Norris and Starling Thomas Oliver. Never heard of those guys in my life. I follow the draft. I know players in day 3. Do I know all of them? Of course not. I have other things to do, but like I follow the NFL relatively closely. I have never seen or heard those names in my life. And they were on a crucial 4th down call late in the 4th quarter to try to have a big momentum swing in this one. And 12 men on the field. Again, it sucks, but when you have guys I've never even heard of on the field, like what else can you do? The defense tried their best. But again, we'll talk about the offense here. The offense completely sold. Five turnovers from them in this one. And a lot of the blame is on quarterback Jared Goff. He, don't want to say it, but kind of turned into a pumpkin. 3 interceptions, had a fumble. The other interception was from Jamison Williams, and we'll talk about that in a bit because that was fucking crazy. But Goff... And this is the difference between Goff, who I think is like a really good quarterback, but between guys like Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, he can't carry. Like when things aren't going his way and he's not playing and I got so much time in the pocket and the run game's working well and blah, blah, blah. Like he's a really good quarterback, but if he's the one making mistakes that day, the whole offense suffers for it. Where if Josh Allen or Lamar or Mahomes were to make mistakes, I have faith in those guys to get back into the game one way or another. When Goff does it, it's just a little different. He did not bring his best stuff. it was rather unfortunate. And it's hard. It's like, oh, the offense put up 31 points, but it's, again, wasn't good enough at the end of the day, which is crazy to say. But yeah, offense wasn't good enough. The offensive game plan, just in general, was actually. Do I want to talk about that first? No, I'll talk about Jameson Williams first. Jameson Williams had an absolutely incredible trick play run, 61 yards off like a reverse fake toss, whatever. 61-yard touchdown, fucking dry humps the shit out of the end zone. Fantastic play. And then Ben Johnson calls up another trick play, and I forget what quarter it was or what time of the game it was, and where Jameson Williams was supposed to go, end around, whatever, and then look down the field for a pass. Pass was covered. What does Jameson Williams do? Doesn't throw it away, doesn't try to scramble for a couple yards. Nope, he throws the ball into triple coverage. Jameson Williams is one of those guys where, my God, is he talented. My God, is he fast, and he can run by anyone, and he's so much fun to watch when he's on the field. My God, is he stupid. Like, that is one of the worst, like, you cannot do that play, like, whatsoever. Like, the fact that you felt confident throwing to, I don't even know who was down the field, but throwing to him when there was 3 defenders around him, when you're what year is he in? Second year? Third year. When he is a third-year player, absolutely, like, mind-boggling. And, I mean, he doesn't get the stupid moniker just because of that one play. I mean, he has the gambling stuff. He has... I think he puts, like, an Oreo McFlurry on his Big Mac when he orders McDonald's, which isn't inherently stupid, but it's just like, what the hell are you doing? Jameson Williams is a weird guy. Very talented, very good player, but, like, you gotta use your brain in moments like that. Because, again, the Commanders won by 14, but, like, if they, instead of 5 turnovers, just have 2, I think that they can get back in this one. But wasn't good enough. And, yeah, part of that offensive, like, play calling, too. And I give David Montgomery a lot of credit. I think it was an MCL or a UCL injury in his knee. Whatever. It looked bad. He's out for the year, and he's like, nah, coach, I can play. I'm good to go. And it's like, okay, Monty, Sonic and Knuckles, like, we need you. And they didn't need him. Jahmyr Gibbs was absolutely carving everyone up. I think he averaged like 7.8 yards per carry on his 14 carries, had over 100 yards. And then David Montgomery, with his 7 carries, gets 28 yards and averages 4 yards a carry, which 4 yards a carry is pretty damn good. But when the other guy's averaging 7.8 and you take away 7 of those carries, it adds up. It's nice that Montgomery was involved and part of the game plan, but, like, he just shouldn't have been. It should have never even been an option for him to be on the field, whoever the team doctors are. And again, I don't think his injury has really been fully diagnosed, at least on the Twitterverse anyways, but I don't understand why David Montgomery was out there in general, especially when Jahmyr Gibbs looks that good. Speaking of Jahmyr Gibbs, he's so fucking good. Like, his acceleration and then top-end speed is otherworldly. Like, really, I've seen people make the comparisons to a prime Jamal Charles when he was with the Chiefs, and I don't disagree with that. Their ability and their agility and their burst to get away from people. Like, there are times where Jahmyr Gibbs takes an outside run and he looks like, it's like, that defender is within a couple steps. That's going to get tackled for a 1-2 yard gain, maybe a loss, and Gibbs just keeps fucking running. He turns that corner, and then he takes it for like a 40-yard run. It's really fucking impressive to see the things that he can do, and obviously a lot of people were iffy on that pick at the time, but he's their best offensive player, and that's saying a lot when they have guys like Amon-Ra, who's a all-pro player, Sam Laporta, who's great, and I mean, I can say Penei Sewell, but, like, it's different because it's not like a weapon. He's their best offensive skill player anyways, I should say. I'm very excited to see what he does next year. It's tough because I'm assuming it'll still be like a Monty Gibbs split, but if Gibbs was just that lead back guy, like we're talking about like offensive player of the year, he's gonna put up some crazy fucking numbers, and he still might. They might lesser that role. We don't know who's gonna be calling the plays anymore now because you all know this already. But Ben Johnson has taken that Bears head coaching job, and now. And Aaron Glenn is obviously going to take another job too. So now this offseason, what's next for the Lions? This is a big Dan Campbell offseason. This is a big offseason too for the people who hate Dan Campbell and have just been waiting for his coordinators to hire and have been calling him a coordinator merchant and all those things that they want to be proven true. And obviously when people have their shtick and their talking points, they don't want to leave it, and a couple people have been holding on to their Dan Campbell takes for probably quite a while now, but it is a big offseason for Lions. It's the big offseason for Dan Campbell to figure out who his new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator will be, who he brings in, whether it's in-house hires. But again, I have a lot of faith in Dan Campbell as a head coach, a lot of faith in Brad Holmes, their GM, to bring in the right players, to make the right picks in the draft. They're going to be fine. I'm not worried about the Lions next year. Again, they just need to get fucking healthy. They got absolutely fucked with injuries this year, and they just need to get healthy. We'll keep going here. Next game up, Rams 23, Eagles 28. Saquon Barkley's just fucking incredible. He is the only reason this offense looks good. Because I can tell you what, Jalen Hurts, this passing attack, this passing scheme in general, woof. But we'll talk about that in a second. But I got to just stick more on Saquon Barkley. What he has done for this offense, who the Eagles for the last, since Hurts has been the starter, have had very good run games. And mainly, again, the threat of Hurts also rushing topped with this offensive line and how great they are in getting holes open. Like, they made DeAndre Swift look like an above average running back, and DeAndre Swift is just not. So getting Saquon Barkley, who is one of the league's most talented running backs in the offseason, and putting him behind that offensive line, we see what happens. Saquon, again, in this one, 26 carries, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. The 205 yards is fifth highest in playoff history. Saquon just, again, he is their offense. And that will be the Commanders' goal next week. Stop Saquon Barkley. Really fucking hard, but again, we will see, and I'll talk about that game on Friday, because again, I got some thoughts about everything, but if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley, as I said at the top of this, I don't know what offense the Eagles are trying to run here. Again, they got one of the best offensive lines in the league. You got A.J. Brown. You got Devonta Smith. You got Saquon running the ball. You got Dallas Goedert. This should be an elite offense. And again, if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley, my God, does this offense suck. Jalen Hurts just is not a good thrower of the football. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are just running. They're doing cardio out there. It's not fun. Jalen Hurts took 7 sacks in this one, and I'm not blaming the Eagles' offensive line for the majority of those sacks, because it's not their fault. It's because, again, whether it's Jalen Hurts not throwing the ball away or not making the correct read, or just Kellen Moore not scheming up a good offense, I don't really know. I'm not going to break down the all-22 again. I don't like doing that stuff. I like making my quick judgments about what's happening, and my quick judgments are Kellen Moore, not a great offensive coordinator, might be the next Cowboys head coach, funny enough, and Jalen Hurts, not a top 10 quarterback. I don't care what he does from here on out. I'm not putting Jalen Hurts in my top 10 at the end of the year. You want to talk about someone who is carried by everyone around him? That's Jalen Hurts. You want to talk about the guy who he puts his name on the group project at the end of it after maybe brainstorming a few ideas at the very beginning? That's Jalen Hurts. It's just, I don't know. It's so tough for me. Again, when you have all of these people, all of these really talented people on that offense, and for it to just look like that. Ugh. It's gross. It really is. I think that's all I can describe it as. The Eagles' offense is gross looking. Other than Saquon, of course, the Eagles' offense is very, very gross looking. Oh, that was the other thing. They were sacked 7 times. Brady Fisk, he was out after the first series of the game, and he got a sack in his 5 snaps of the game. And again, one of their better interior pass rushers was out for the game, and they still allowed 6 more sacks after that. So, yeah, again, Eagles offense has a lot of shit to figure out. We'll talk about this Eagles defense, though, and this is the Eagles defense that has been carrying them for, carrying relative, because again, Saquon's doing a lot of the carrying as well, but again, the Eagles defense is fucking awesome, and another big reason for that is Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter, who got drafted last year, 9th overall, Eagles trading up to get Jalen Carter at 9th overall, and my God, does that look like a terrific move by the Eagles, because again, Jalen Pro is on the fast track to becoming an all-pro player, monster in this game, 2 sacks and a forced fumble, which kind of ended up being the big difference in this one, but without Jalen Carter in this one, the Eagles don't end up winning. He was, again, absolutely huge. I talked about Will Anderson earlier. Jalen Carter is right up there with him with guys who have a shot to win Defensive Player by the end of this decade, I think. He's really fucking talented. And, again, he's in year 2. He's only going to get better, just like Will Anderson. He is, again, a lot of fun to watch. This defense, just in general, is fun to watch. Unfortunately for them, Quinyon Mitchell leaves with a shoulder injury. He seems to be okay. No real report on it yet. Hopefully there will be by Thursday's episode, but I would imagine he's going to play, but that could be a potential big loss for the Eagles in this one. But, yeah, we'll move on to the Rams here. I'm going to start off with the defense before I talk about this offense. Jared Verse is an absolute animal. He, again, rookie season, and during the season, his pressure rate, it was there. One of the best in the league. But his numbers, the box score stats, he wasn't amounting to sacks. And eventually they will. And in the playoffs, they have. He had another 2-sack performance in this one. And that young defensive line is so good in general. And I've been talking them up all year. Verse, Brady Fisk, Kobe Turner, Bobby Brown, Byron Young. And they're all going to get better. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this Rams defense next year. And again, I'm excited what Sean McVay and Les Snead have cooked up on that side of the ball to see what they're doing. I'm excited to see what they can do on the offense. But Jared Verse is going to be a very, very good player in this league for quite a while. And I think I kind of overthought Jared Verse just a little bit. He was huge. He ran a very good 40 at the combine. He's just a freak athletically. And I was just he's kind of boring. He's not there's not a lot of pizzazz as a pass rusher, compared to a Leatu Latu type guy. And the fact that in year 1 versus speed to power, where his get off is quick and then he gets his hands on you, and it wasn't just grown man strength in college. He has grown man strength in the NFL. I don't know. Oh, no, yeah. It was Mekhi Becton. Verse, and I don't know who the interior player, they ran a stunt. Verse came around, put Becton right on his ass. And if you don't know who Mekhi Becton is, Becton's about 6'7", 6'8", 350 pounds, and Verse just knocked him over like he wasn't even there. That led to one of his sacks. Again, so damn impressive. So damn impressive what he did in his rookie year, and the Rams should be very happy with what this defense did. Offense on the other side, Stafford is still awesome. Stafford is still a gamer. He still has the arm. He's still making the throws. It's again, it's not what prime Stafford was, but he's still a very fun, very good quarterback to watch. At the end of the day, that Kyron Williams fumble, again, talk about turnovers mattering. That one turnover, will I say it's the definitive difference maker? No. Was it a difference maker? Definitely was. At Stafford is awesome. Puka's awesome. That offensive line held up as well as they could. But Matt Stafford hinted towards retirement. Again, we'll see, and I'll report on it when it does end up happening. But if that happens for the Rams, they got to figure some shit out at quarterback. We will see what they do. I mean, I'm under the impression Stafford plays one more year, and then I think this would be a year. Again, this quarterback class sucks. There's no one that I would want. I mean, obviously, like, oh, if the Rams could get Cam Ward, but that's not going to happen, or if they could get Shador, but that's not going to happen. But I don't know. Someone like Trey Lance is going to be a free agent, and I don't know why I'm still holding on to the hope of Trey Lance, but like, I don't know. Trey Lance sits behind a year of Matt Stafford. He's not even 25 at this point yet. Works with Sean McVay. Maybe, hey, that next year it's like, oh my God, Trey Lance is the new Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold or Geno Smith. Because everyone's going to be looking for these guys who were cast-offs, retreads, whatever, to finally have their breakout season. And I think Trey Lance is a good candidate for that. Again, I am holding on to my Trey Lance stock for dear life at this point. So, and part of the reason I'm holding on to it is because the stock has no value in it right now. So I might as well hang on to all of my Trey Lance stock. And if he does eventually become something, I can be like, I'm there. I have my Trey Lance. I was still a believer. And I am still a believer, which is crazy to say. The man just needs reps, but that would be a very nice spot for Trey Lance to go to. Maybe Mac Jones too. I don't know. Either way. The Rams, like the Lions, I have so much faith in their coaches and their front office to rebuild, get what this team needs, nail the draft, nail free agency. So yeah, again, great year for the Rams, especially on that defensive side of the ball. I'm very excited to see what that defense is going to cook up next year. But yeah, we can keep moving on to this final game here. Ravens 25, Bills 27. Bills win again. Bills win the turnover battle. Bills win the game. Really wasn't that impressive of a game, like from the Bills side, or at least offensively. Anyways, I give a lot of credit to their defense for stopping what the Ravens wanted to do on offense, and that is run the shit out of Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry still averaged 5 yards per carry, but he averaged 5 yards per carry on only, I think he had 16 carries because the Bills knocked them off their game script. They forced some turnovers early. They forced Lamar to pass the ball a little more, and it almost amounted in a tie game at the end. But the Bills' defense did their job. Shout out to Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, Taron Johnson, all guys who the Bills didn't have in that first meeting with the Ravens from earlier this season. They all stepped up. They played great. But also shout out to Damar Hamlin, sack and a forced fumble in this one. He went from last year to kind of just being like a joke player and a joke that he's still on the roster to like, he's like a starting caliber player across this league. Like, he's not great, but he's solid, he's dependable, he's pretty good. So shout out to DeMar for, again, coming back from dying and then also becoming like a good, dependable football player. It's great for him. I mean, Von Miller had a fumble recovery that he almost ran back for a touchdown, but Von Miller is nearly 40 years old at this point, so that would have been tough. Yeah, on offense, though, again, they didn't really have to do much. They just ran the shit out of the football. James Cook got his carries. I think he nearly got 70 yards, but it wasn't just James Cook. It was James Cook, it was Ty Johnson, it was Ray Davis, it was Josh Allen, all contributing in the run game. I think they were close to 150 yards on the game. And again, this is against a very good Ravens run defense and again, defense in general, who has been playing very, very well. Very, very well, at least for the back half of the year. And the Bills just beat their game plan. And a unit that, again, has not gotten enough shine over the course of the year. It's this Bills offensive line. It's Deion Dawkins. It's... damn it. I knew I was going to forget. the names. And I think I have them in my head here, so I'm not going to edit this out because I'm lazy and I don't want to pause and restart and have to clip it out when I do the editing. So I'm just going to start my point out again. The Bills' offensive line has been incredibly underrated throughout most of this year, and they were a huge factor in why the run game was able to get so many positive yards against this really good Ravens defense. Like guys like Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, who could have been all pros this year, but again, there's a lot of good offensive tackle play in the league. They just didn't get the consideration, but they are terrific players. And then along the interior, you got David Edwards, you got Connor McGovern at center, and then you have Osiris Torrance, who they drafted 2 years ago. This might be his second year, who are just, again, they're road graders. They are moving people off the defensive line, and we saw it in their wild card game against the Broncos. We saw it what they did against the Ravens guys. And again, these Ravens guys, they got some great players. Namadi Matabuke, Travis Jones, Big Michael Pierce, Kyle Van Noy, Adolphe Owa, and I'm very excited to see how this Bills offensive line performs against guys like Chris Jones and Karlaftis and Omenahue next week, and I guess we will see how they do next week, and that's for Friday's show. But this Bills offensive line deserves a ton of credit for how they perform at the end of the day. Because other than that, yeah, like Josh Allen did exactly what he needed to do, had his 2 touchdowns, had his rushing yards, didn't have any turnovers, which is great for Josh Allen, but he didn't need to be Superman. And I think that's the takeaway for Josh Allen, is he hasn't needed to be Superman yet in these playoffs. Maybe we get that in the AFC Championship game. I'd like to see it, but we can move on to the Ravens here. A lot of people want to point the blame at Lamar and being a playoff choker, and this is just another long list of playoff games and playoff woes for Lamar. And I don't disagree with that. I don't buy into that wholeheartedly. I think Lamar was good enough today. Yeah, that interception where I don't know where the fuck he was throwing, and I don't know if Bateman just kind of stopped running the route or whatever. Bad throw. Very bad throw. The fumble, obviously the weather was not great weather. You still got to hold on to the ball. That wasn't great. But the second half from Lamar, the only reason the Ravens were in that game in the second half was because of Lamar Jackson. He played excellent football. Did it matter because of his first half? No, it didn't. But Lamar is getting the bulk of the blame for the Ravens' loss, and it should fall on tight end Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, who has also consistently never showed up in a playoff game during his entire career, someone who does not have a playoff touchdown, someone who averages less than 40 yards a game in the playoffs, someone who has multiple drops across multiple playoff games, and it all culminated at the very end. The Ravens need a 2-point conversion to tie the game, send it to overtime. Mark Andrews, wide open. Lamar floats it in there, right in the chest of Mark Andrews, bobbles the ball, game over. That's that. There has just been far too many times where it has been a big game, and whether it be playoffs, whether it be regular season game against a really good opponent or a divisional opponent, or just a game that matters in general. And I have seen drop after drop from Mark Andrews, not showing up in big moments on key third downs where Lamar makes a great play and tosses a dime right to him. And Mark Andrews is just, again, I keep saying again, but Mark Andrews is just, he's a very good tight end. He was a very good tight end. Mark Andrews is past his prime at this point. I do not think that the Ravens need him on their team next season, and that's mainly just because he has such a huge cap hit. If he wants to stay, he's got to rework his deal, but he just never shows up. He never shows up when the Ravens need him. It's tough to watch. It is tough to watch. I don't think he's a top 5 tight end in the league at this point anymore. I don't think he's ever been a top 3 tight end over the course of his career. I could be completely wrong. I mean, there might be some years where, again, when he was in his prime and he had his 1,000-yard seasons or whatever, where he might have been top 3 when it was Kelsey. No, because it still would have been Kelsey and Gronk, and then I could have put Kittle or someone like Darren Waller, who had a couple excellent seasons. I don't think Mark Andrews was ever a top 3 tight end in my mind, and I don't know. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks when you can literally boil it down to one play in the game of being like, yeah, that's a big reason why they lost. And final play of the game, he has the 2-point conversion in his chest. The ball hits him right in the numbers, and just can't get it done. I don't know. It's just another year, another like Ravens performance where they disappoint everyone. Where like, oh, the advanced stats are showing that the Ravens are one of the best teams ever and one of the best offenses ever assembled, and then they shit their pants. And part of the reason for that too is, I mean, Zay Flowers playing meaningless snaps in a Week 18 game where the Ravens were absolutely kicking the shit out of the Browns. Like, Zay Flowers changes the outcome of this game. Having their best pass catcher being out in this one was crucial. Like, again, and you can't, like, injuries happen and it is whatever, but like meaningless snaps against a bad opponent in Week 18 when you already had a lead, when you knew that you were going to win the game regardless of what backups you could have thrown out there. It sucks, but again, it's the same story year after year from the Ravens, and the only saving grace that I can like tell them, you have one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen playing quarterback for your team. And that just means that regardless of what's out there or who's out there, you will have a chance at the Super Bowl every single year as long as Lamar is still Lamar. And I think it's as simple as that, where, and again, it's the same thing with guys like Allen, guys like Mahomes. When you have that type of quarterback on your team, you have a chance to win. And there's a lot of teams in this league that are craving for just this type of playoff success. I am craving that. So that's kind of like my one, like if you can take anything home with you Ravens fans, is you have Lamar as your quarterback. He will get over the hump at some point. Takes a while, again, and we're living in an age where everything's an instant reaction and there's no time for players to overcome. Like, Lamar is he has now finished his 7th year in the NFL. He has a whole other half of his career to play football right now. A lot can happen in 7 years. So give Lamar some grace. Obviously, not his best performance, but like, he's about to be probably a 3-time MVP. He'll get there. He'll get there eventually. Just not right now. I don't think I have any like Ravens things to say. I think Derrick Henry's a free agent this offseason. They should definitely look to bring him back. But that's the episode. Look at me for almost going for an hour only talking about these divisional games by myself. Honestly, that's a fucking win. I listened to a couple podcasts over the week, and the ones that come out on Monday, like, to just recap the games like I did. And one of my favorite new ones is Football 301 with Nate Tice, Charles McDonald, and Matt Harmon, and Nate and Charles on Monday. Their show went for roughly an hour or two. So the fact that I can sit here and talk about these 4 divisional games for close to an hour at like as much as Nate Tice and Charles McDonald do, obviously they give you more in-depth stats and more of a real analytical point of the game. But I don't know. I think I do a pretty damn good job of doing it too, explaining my points, being funny, being whatever. Either way, the fact that I can talk about 4 games for an hour by myself is, I'm going to say it's impressive. Some people might say it's a little sad. I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree. But, I don't know. This was a great episode. I had a lot of fun doing this. Friday's episode will obviously be a little shorter. I will figure out something to do for Friday's episode. It might be... I'll figure it out. Yeah, good episode here. I gotta eat some food. I gotta buy some weed, so I'm gonna go do that right now. But that'll do it. That'll do it for this episode. As always, if you have liked this, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, tell all your friends, and until next time, peace.